Imagine buying a kitchen appliance because you wanted to eat healthier, only to wake up one morning and read that it might increase your cancer risk. That's exactly what happened to millions of families around the world. Today, we're going to separate fear from facts. By the end of this video, you'll know whether your air fryer really deserves a place in your kitchen. Let's be honest, almost all of us love crispy food. That golden, crunchy texture is one of the most satisfying experiences in cooking. But traditional deep frying usually comes with more calories and often more saturated fat than we're supposed to have. Then, in around 2010, a new kitchen appliance promised to change everything. The message was simple: enjoy crispy food with little or no added oil. People loved the idea, and within just a few years, the air fryer became one of the fastest-growing kitchen appliances in the world. Today, industry analysts estimate the global air fryer market is worth several billion US dollars and expect it to continue growing strongly over the next decade as people look for healthier and more convenient cooking options. But then the headlines changed. People began asking, does the air fryer produce toxic chemicals? Does it cause cancer? Should I stop using it? If you've ever asked yourself the same questions, you're in the right place, because the answer isn't really as simple as yes or no. In fact, the biggest danger might not be the air fryer at all. Before we talk about cancer, before we talk about acrylamide, we first need to answer a much simpler question. What exactly is an air fryer? Despite its name, an air fryer doesn't actually fry food. Traditional deep frying works because hot oil completely surrounds the food, transferring heat quickly while creating that crispy outer layer. An air fryer works very differently. It's actually a kind of compact convection oven. Inside the appliance are two key components: a powerful heating element and a high-speed fan. The fan rapidly circulates extremely hot air around the food, cooking it from every direction. Instead of oil carrying the heat, the air carries the heat. As the hot air moves across the food, it removes moisture from the surface. The outside becomes dry, proteins and sugars begin reacting, and the surface slowly turns golden. Eventually, that familiar crispy crust begins to form. That's why air-fried food often looks and tastes similar to deep-fried food, even though it uses very little oil. At this point, you might be wondering, if it's basically an oven, why doesn't my oven produce the same results? Both cook with hot air, but a conventional oven has a much larger cooking chamber, so the air moves more slowly and food takes longer to dry. An air fryer has a much smaller chamber and far more powerful airflow relative to its size. That rapid circulation removes surface moisture faster, producing a crispier texture in less time. And that small detail turns out to be incredibly important. Because if an air fryer is simply another way of applying high dry heat, then something much bigger is happening inside your food. Not because of the machine, but because of the chemistry. And that chemistry creates one of the most misunderstood molecules in nutrition: acrylamide. Take a look at this piece of toast. Just a few moments ago, it was pale, soft, and almost flavorless. Now it's golden brown, smells incredible, and tastes completely different. That's chemistry. One of the greatest revolutions in human history was the discovery of fire. Cooking didn't just make food safer, it transformed the way our bodies obtained energy from food. Scientists believe that cooking improved digestibility, increased calorie availability, and may even have contributed to the evolution of the larger human brain. And humans became naturally attracted to browned food. Because browning usually means more flavor, more aroma, and more enjoyment. Every time you smell fresh bread, roasted coffee, roasted potatoes, or grilled meat, you're actually experiencing hundreds of new chemical compounds that are created during cooking. Scientists call these changes browning reactions, and they happen in almost every kitchen, every single day. Browning is basically two types. The first type is called enzymatic browning. It's what happens when you cut an apple, a banana, or an avocado. Inside these fruits are natural enzymes. Once they're exposed to oxygen, a chain of chemical reactions begins, and the surface slowly turns brown, without any cooking at all. This process is called non-enzymatic browning. The second type of browning is called the Maillard reaction, which is actually hundreds of interconnected chemical reactions happening at the same time. In fact, food chemists are still studying its remarkable complexity today. To simplify the science, the reaction begins when certain amino acids, especially one called asparagine, meet naturally occurring reducing sugars. Then heat is added, typically above 120 degrees Celsius. Once those ingredients come together, a cascade of chemical reactions begins. The result is hundreds of completely new molecules, which are responsible for flavor, color, and texture. But like almost everything in life, too much of a good thing can become a problem. One of the many compounds that can be produced during the Maillard reaction is called acrylamide. And this is exactly where social media often gets the story wrong. People hear the phrase, air fryers produce acrylamide, and immediately assume the air fryer invented it. But that's not true, as it can form whenever certain starchy foods are cooked at high temperatures. The biggest dietary sources are foods that most of us eat every day, like French fries, toast, roasted coffee, and many others. On the other hand, plain meat, fish, eggs, and most dairy products usually produce much less acrylamide because they contain very little carbohydrate. So, whether you're using an oven, a toaster, a grill, a deep fryer, or an air fryer, if you cook susceptible starchy foods long enough, hot enough, and brown them enough, some acrylamide is formed. So if acrylamide forms in so many everyday foods, should we all stop eating toast, coffee, and potatoes? Or is the real risk being exaggerated? In the next chapter, we'll explore what the world's leading health organizations, including the WHO, EFSA, and FDA, along with the latest human studies, actually say about cancer risk, and why the headlines often leave out the most important part of the story. Organizations including the World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization through JECFA, the European Food Safety Authority, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration all agree on one important point. All recommend reducing unnecessary acrylamide exposure. Why? Because laboratory studies have shown that very high doses of acrylamide can damage DNA and increase cancer risk in animals. But those studies used exposures roughly 1 to 100,000 times higher than what people normally consume through food. So what happens when scientists study real people instead of laboratory animals? Large human studies have produced mixed results. Some reported possible associations with certain cancers. Many others found little or no increase in overall cancer risk. After reviewing all of the available evidence, systematic reviews and meta-analyses conclude that the evidence in humans remains inconclusive. That doesn't prove acrylamide is harmless. But it also doesn't prove that eating toast, roasted potatoes, or air-fried foods causes cancer. The most honest scientific answer today is that we still don't have definitive evidence that normal dietary exposure to acrylamide causes cancer in humans. To put that into perspective, the average adult consumes only about 0.3 to 0.6 micrograms of acrylamide per kilogram of body weight each day, roughly 20 to 40 micrograms daily for a 70-kilogram adult. Fun fact, tobacco smoke exposes people to substantially higher levels of acrylamide than food. Accordingly, smoking is a major independent risk factor for many cancers. So rather than recommending people avoid air fryers, international health organizations advise something much simpler. Avoid unnecessary browning and burning whenever practical. This approach follows an important principle used throughout medicine and public health, ALARA, as low as reasonably achievable. If unnecessary exposure can be reduced without sacrificing nutrition or enjoyment, it's worth doing. As a cardiologist, this is actually the part that concerns me the most, not the air fryer itself, but what we're cooking and how often we're eating it. Deep frying usually adds considerably more fat and calories to food than air frying. When cooking oil is repeatedly heated, it also produces oxidation products and aldehydes that may contribute to inflammation and oxidative stress. Over many years, a diet rich in deep-fried, energy-dense foods is associated with weight gain, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, abnormal cholesterol, and a greater risk of cardiovascular disease. That's why organizations such as the American Heart Association and the European Society of Cardiology consistently recommend dietary patterns rich in vegetables, fruits, legumes, whole grains, nuts, fish, and healthy oils such as extra virgin olive oil. Notice that these organizations don't tell people to fear air fryers. Instead, they encourage healthier cooking methods that reduce unnecessary added fat while preserving nutritional quality. For many families, replacing deep frying with air frying can reduce added oil and overall calorie intake. But remember, an air fryer doesn't magically transform ultra-processed food into healthy food. Air frying frozen breaded chicken every night isn't the same as air frying salmon, broccoli, or homemade potato wedges. The appliance is just a tool. Your food choices matter far more. So what's the practical takeaway? It's actually quite simple. Cook foods until they're golden, not dark brown or burnt. If you're preparing fresh potatoes, soaking them in water for 15 to 30 minutes before cooking, this can help reduce surface sugars and lower acrylamide formation. Store potatoes in a cool, dark place, but not in the refrigerator because cold temperatures increase reducing sugars and can promote acrylamide during cooking. Use healthy oils when needed, and for many air fryer recipes, extra virgin olive oil is an excellent choice. Most importantly, never judge a meal by the appliance, judge it by what's on the plate. A homemade salmon fillet with roasted vegetables is a completely different meal from ultra-processed frozen snacks, even if both are cooked in the same air fryer. So, does the air fryer deserve all the fear it's getting online? No, not based on the evidence we have today. If you remember just one message from this video, let it be this. The greatest threat to our health isn't one kitchen appliance. It's years of unhealthy eating habits. No air fryer, no oven, no grill has ever been more powerful than your daily choices. An air fryer can cook broccoli, or frozen nuggets. It can cook salmon, or ultra-processed snacks. The machine doesn't choose, you do. So don't ask, is my air fryer healthy? Ask, is the meal I'm putting into it healthy? Because that's the question that has the greatest impact on your long-term heart health, and possibly on your cancer risk as well. If this documentary helped you separate facts from fear, share it with someone who believes the air fryer is either completely harmless or completely dangerous. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Has this video changed the way you think about air fryers? Thanks for watching.